Welcome to Conversations Aloud. Today is the 20th of June, Friday. It's been 7 days, more than 7 days since the Israel-Iran war. And oh boy, do we have a lot going on. It's very clear that Israel made a lot of mistakes in judging Iran's capability. No one, well, Israel at least, didn't expect that after 7 days of bombing, after the assassination of a lot of the Iranian leadership and the scientists and the what you can call terrorist activities that they carried out that killed a lot of civilians, that Iran would still be bombing Israel, and they're bombing them as we speak right now. We're going to show you some pictures and videos of what's happening right this minute of this recording. Mossad clearly misjudged Iran's capabilities because, when Iran throws its missiles at Israel, it's going through so many layers of defense, from the ships, British and American ships on the coast that are targeting those missiles, to the Arrow defense system, the David system, which we're going to show you, to bring those missiles down. But it's been now proven that defense system does not work against Iranian missiles, ballistic missiles. We were told by the established media that by now all the missiles of Iran has been demolished, the launchers have been demolished. Iran doesn't have a capability to attack Israel anymore. Well, 6 days in, Israel has lost more than $500 billion of damages just to the infrastructure. This has never happened in Israel's history. It's so bad that Israel has now banned journalists from sharing the damage that's happening to Israel, and has banned also the citizens to share anything with anyone abroad unless it goes through the right channels. And so they're ensuring that the right narrative is showcased to the world, which is that Iran is only hitting civilians and not military targets, when in fact the reality, as many journalists have confirmed and many news stations have confirmed, there's a lot of military intelligence government buildings that are obviously in densely populated areas in Tel Aviv, because Tel Aviv is actually quite densely populated. And so, obviously what Iran is doing, what Israel is doing in Iran, which is bombing the government buildings, Iran's doing to Israel. But that's how bad the situation is. Everything that's coming out to the world through the official channels is about civilian damage to residential buildings, the damage we saw about to the hospital, which we don't know yet. Actually, did the bomb hit directly the hospital, or, as Iran was saying, that there was a headquarters near the hospital and that was hit, and the blowback damaged the hospital itself? We don't know what is the accurate information. We do know that there is a lot of intelligence and military headquarters all around the city and within the city. Obviously, no hospital should be destroyed. The hospital, Israel shouldn't have destroyed the hospital in Iran a couple of days ago, and Iran should obviously not destroy any hospitals in Israel. No hospital should be damaged, and no civilians should be killed in any of this for any party involved. But the truth is, the casualties in Israel are much, much less than the casualties in Iran, which are in the hundreds right now. Everything that's coming out that is showing us the damage of Israel is actually illegal right now to share that information. We're getting it through social media and things like that. The issue that Israel faces is that the longer this goes, the worse it gets for Israel and the better it gets for Iran. Sure, Israel caught Iran off guard, and they were aiming to kind of create so much uncertainty that the regime would collapse and people would come to the streets and take over, but that didn't happen. Iran was quick to recover from that setback, and now Iran is on the offensive. Their confidence is so high, Iran, right now, that they're actually saying to the U.S., we're not negotiating with you anymore. They're actually trying to negotiate with the Europeans now. And to the U.S., they said, we will not negotiate until Israel stops. And on top of that, Russia confirmed that they were talking to the Iranians, and the Iranians said, we don't need your help right now, which is crazy. So what's happening is that Iran is taking on Israel by itself, obviously with Israel getting a lot of support from the U.S. Now, what Iran is getting so far is a lot of Russian intelligence, a lot of Chinese intelligence, and it seems like Chinese equipment, because there's a lot of cargoes coming from China to Russia to Iran. We don't know what's happening in the background, really, but I want to show you some of those videos around defense and what's happening in the region today. Iran's capabilities have really astonished everyone in the region, including the U.S., so much so that the U.S. is now actually hesitant on getting involved. Now, Trump said that he's going to take 2 weeks to assess the situation, you never really know, after they killed the negotiating leaders as they were negotiating with them, there's no trust anymore about what the U.S. says and what it does. So, I'm sure the Iranians know that. So, they said 2 weeks. Let's see what happens. They may attack tomorrow. And the Iranians, I'm sure, expect such things. This is just now about half an hour ago in Haifa, Israel. And this was yesterday. So as you can see, lots of buildings. This was, I think, 2 days ago. Extensive damage. Look at the damage over here. This isn't Israel. This isn't Tel Aviv. It's massive damage. As I said before, $500 billion in just 6 days of just damages. Not the expenditure to have to carry out the defense of Israel. Here we're going to go through the issue that Israel faces right now.
For days, Israel's defenses have largely held up against Iran's missile attack. But there's a growing concern that Israel is burning through its defensive weapon. And its arrow interceptors, which play a key role in taking out Iran's ballistic missiles, are in short supply, according to a U.S. official.
So the reality is that, we hear a lot about the Iron Dome. The Iron Dome isn't actually effective against ballistic missiles, and that's not their purpose. Their purpose is in, the small missiles that Hamas sometimes sends or Hezbollah sometimes sends. The ballistic missiles, which are at crazy speeds, you needed a different defense system, which is the Arrow system that Israel has. And that's very expensive. Every missile that's sent from Iran on the ballistic missiles, you need a number of those Arrow missiles to hit. And even then, they're not being completely effective, as we've just seen with the hits in Israel itself. These Arrow weapons, missiles, are being depleted. And apparently, Israel only has 2 weeks of supply. After that, they're done. There's no defense anymore. But even with the Arrow system that they have, it's not effective. The ballistic missiles from Iran are actually going through it.
The United States, which has been helping Israel shoot down threats, is also extending its munition. The U.S. official and analysts familiar with the number say that Iran have more missiles than Israel and the U.S. have interceptor. Right?
Iran has more missiles than the U.S. and Israel have interceptors, i.e., the longer this goes, the worse it gets. Remember, when Iran is throwing its missiles across, it's the U.S. ships, even British ships, and the Arrow defense system that's trying to bring it down, and it's still not working. Imagine when the interceptors, those Arrow missiles, are depleted and Israel doesn't even have the defense system.
Then concerned about Israel?
Look at this.
So,
look at the bombs are just going down at Tel Aviv.
Here's what the interceptor short bombings for Israel, its ally, and the broader Middle East.
So as you can see over here, there's the Iron Dome. There is the David Sling, which is actually targeting also the ballistic missiles. And then there's the Arrow 2 and Arrow 3. The Iron Dome is the least effective. Well, it's the least powerful versus the others.
Israel uses different systems to provide a multi-layered defense of its airspace. The Arrow 3 is considered the crown jewel of this network. With a range of about 1,500 miles, the Arrow 3 is used to counter long-range ballistic missiles, including those that fly above the Earth's atmosphere. Arrow 3 has been critical in countering attacks from Iran and Yemen, and it can intercept threats before they cross into Israel's airspace. The Arrow 2, an older version of the system, is also used to intercept short and medium-range ballistic missiles. Then there's David Sling, primarily used to counter medium-range ballistic missiles, among other threats. And finally, the Iron Dome, which is used to shoot down short-range spreads like rockets from Gaza.
So what's the game plan with the Iran-Israel war? Well, for Israel, it's not just to destroy their nuclear facilities. It's very obvious that they want regime change. They want to... And how are they going to create a regime change? Well, they cannot do it with just Air Force, because how is the regime going to change just like that? What they're going to try to do is make Iran suffer by destroying a lot of its assets, such that the situation arises whereby the people will get sick of what's happening and revolt. That's their aim. They want to destabilize the country, and they want the people to rise up. Interestingly, the people so far has done the opposite of that from what we're seeing. Just today, for Friday prayers, thousands of people have come out in the streets to support the government. Obviously, we don't know what other things are happening right now there. As you can see over here, lots of people coming out, thousands and thousands in support of the government. Now, obviously, there's a lot of people that don't support the government, but obviously there's a lot that also support the government. And this is across different cities. This is in Israel.
I think that was a lot. So,
A lot of people, and actually the government has now said, the Iranian government has said to people, we want you to come back to work. So if there's 30% capacity they've put at coming back to work to actually offices of returning back to normality now. And it's now very clear that they're not even sure whether America itself can destroy the nuclear facility underneath the mountain that they have at Fordow. They are actually debating whether to hit that mountain with a nuclear bomb, because they think that's the only way that they will destroy that nuclear facility, which is, they estimate, is about 80 to 100 meters underneath the ground, because the bunker buster bombs, they don't know whether that will go through all of that depth underneath the ground. So that's why I feel like Trump is also hesitant, because they don't even know that they can destroy it with the bombs that they have, other than going nuclear, which obviously would result in a nuclear war, because Pakistan came and said a nuclear hit to Iran will result in a nuclear hit to Israel. And at the same time, you have other nations now coming out and realizing, hang on, this whole initial setback for Iran isn't working out. They're resetting, they're taking a strong stance now. China just sent 2 ships, surveillance ships, to the Gulf area, which is going to provide intelligence to the Iranians about what's happening in there. Not that Iran doesn't have that intelligence too from its assets on the ground, but that's additional intelligence, especially now that the American warships are there in that area. Russia is providing a lot of intelligence. Russia has said repeatedly, our red line is regime change. You're not allowed to carry out regime change. If the US gets involved, if there's a regime change, if they kill Ayatollah Khamenei, then we will get involved. That's the red line. And the crazy part of all this, according to the Russians, is that Iran said, we don't need your help right now. We're doing okay, which is insane. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what the Russians are saying. So it seems like the Iranians have it under control. Of course, they are still suffering, and the Israeli airplanes are coming in and destroying things. Israel doesn't have complete control over the airspace of Iran, unlike what they said. Or at least now they don't, because Iran has repaired a lot of its defense systems. So that effect of the initial setback that the Iranians faced is now gone down in effectiveness and impact. For the Iranians, what they're going to try to do is just hammer Israel to show them that, hey, look, we have the capability. We haven't been doing anything to you, but you attacked us. We're going to attack you back, and we're going to create some damage to your infrastructure. And obviously, hopefully they can minimize civilians. There should be no civilian deaths at all in both areas, in all areas. But the aim of the Iranians will also be not to antagonize America. America is just like waiting for any mistakes to happen so that it can jump in. But America knows if it jumps in, this starts a war that they do not want to start. America's debt right now is $37 trillion. It just hit this week. They don't need more wars, especially a war where they will definitely lose. Think about the geography of Iran. Iran is huge. It's bigger than Afghanistan. It's much bigger than Iraq. It's like a third of Europe, essentially. That's the size of Iran. And it has mountains. It's not like a desert like Iraq. Iraq has mountains and small mountains in the north, but Iran has huge mountains. And one of the reasons why they struggled in Afghanistan, the Americans, is because of the mountains. So America is going to struggle with just an air military campaign unless they bomb the whole place, because Iran can easily repair their equipment and they can last a very, very long time. Just ask them about the Iraq-Iran war, 8 years of suffering, devastations, but they still pushed through and were victorious, really, because they were defending themselves and Iraq couldn't, Saddam Hussein couldn't take over any land, really, from them. And at the same time, the Americans are thinking, we've got all our bases there. We have a lot of our warships there. We don't know, actually, the Iranians' capabilities. Because it seems like Mossad got it very wrong with what they're capable of and how long they can go for, given that we're 7 days in and they're still being attacked in Israel more and more and more. And the worst part for the Americans is that Iranians don't need ballistic missiles to hit them in those bases because the ballistic missiles are very expensive and very, they use it for faraway targets. All the American targets are close by, and it's very cheap to create drones and small missiles to attack those assets and bases and warships in the region. It's a war that U.S. cannot win, whether they put troops on the ground or not. And not only that, there are a lot of allies in Iraq, Pakistan, Russia, China that said, here are red lines. Khamenei, if you kill him, we're going to get involved. And Israel has said, we are aiming to kill Khamenei, the Ayatollah Supreme Leader. They are targeting him and they're trying to kill him. And so this would start a World War III for sure. But the Israelis are like, well, we want to do whatever we want to do when we're going to do it. So it is worrying where this is heading. I'm glad Trump is stepping back. We'll see if he really is stepping back or this is just a game like they did with the negotiations where they were supposed to meet and they killed the negotiating person that they're supposed to negotiate with a couple days before one of the last rounds of the negotiation. Now, as you can imagine, if you're Iranian, you have zero trust in the U.S. anymore. And the Iranians have said very clearly that if you kill our supreme leader, then this will push us to go for nuclear weapons. We don't have it right now, but we will work towards that if that occurs. So the best way to have a nuclear war is to escalate the situation. Iran has said, we will stop and negotiate as long as Israel stops. But Israel's saying, nope, we're not stopping. And Israel can't stop anymore because now it's really dangerous for them. They just antagonized a big, powerful country by directly hitting them. And they're thinking, we got to do a regime change because they can come back at us for years to come. We're going to feel endangered unless we do a regime change and we install a government that is pro-Israel. So that's what they're thinking about. They're deep in. And it seems like Mossad or whoever gave them intelligence had bad intelligence about Iran's capabilities. Now, if you did like this video, please hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll share a lot more about what's happening in the region. Thank you very much.